Everyone thinks D-Day won the war in Europe. They're half right, but what actually won it arrived on wheels, driven by men whose names nobody remembered. The history books tell you that Operation Overlord, the invasion of Normandy on June 6, 1944, was the turning point. The landing craft, the paratroopers, the beachhead. I've read the logbooks myself, and yes, getting ashore mattered. But here's what they don't tell you. The moment your army hits the beach, it becomes a machine that devours everything. Ammunition, fuel, food, medicine. Within 72 hours of landing, the Allies had a problem that no amount of heroism could solve. The supply lines from England were breaking. The harbors in Normandy were too shallow. The roads inland were rubble, and the German army, though retreating, was still fighting. By late July, American forces were consuming 20,000 tons of supplies every single day. The Quartermaster Corps calculated they had maybe a week before everything ground to a halt. No fuel, no ammunition, no way forward. So what did they do? They didn't wait for some brilliant general's master plan. They improvised. In August 1944, someone, and I've never found a single name attached to the decision, ordered every available truck in the European theater to be stripped of non-essential cargo and thrown into a single mission. Move supplies from the Normandy ports forward to the advancing armies. 24 hours a day, no stops, no excuses. They called it the Red Ball Express, and it was nothing like the elaborate supply networks the military had trained for. No formal depots, no scheduled routes, just trucks, mostly 2.5-ton Studebakers and GMCs, running in a one-way loop from the beaches toward the front. The red ball marking, a simple red circle painted on the bumper. That's how you knew you were part of something unprecedented. At its peak, the Red Ball ran 5,000 trucks, not organized by some central planning office, organized by necessity. Drivers worked 18, sometimes 20-hour shifts. The roads were narrow French country lanes, never designed for this kind of weight. Trucks broke down constantly, but they kept moving, because if they stopped, the war stopped. Here's what the official histories don't emphasize. Most of these drivers were black soldiers. The army was segregated then. The Quartermaster Corps assigned the most dangerous, most grueling work to black units. Long hours, minimal rest. German fighters still prowled the roads, but these men, and I want you to understand this clearly, these men kept an entire army alive. The official numbers are staggering if you look at them the right way. The Red Ball delivered 412,000 tons of supplies in 11 weeks. That's not a side detail. That's the logistics that won the war. Without it, the armies stop. Without it, the Germans regroup. Without it, the war extends another year, maybe two. Millions more die. But here's where the real story pivots. We celebrate the generals. We memorize the battle names. We build monuments to the combat soldiers. The Red Ball Express, it closed down in November 1944, and by the 1950s, most people had forgotten it existed. The military didn't want to talk about it. Why? Because it exposed something uncomfortable. The Red Ball proved that victory wasn't about individual heroics or genius strategy. It was about logistics, organization, keeping trucks moving. And that's not a story the military establishment wanted to tell. It's not glamorous. It doesn't fit the narrative of great men making great decisions. More uncomfortable still, those black drivers, those black soldiers who made the Red Ball work, they came home to a segregated America that didn't celebrate them, didn't honor them, didn't even acknowledge their role. The war was won on logistics and labor, but the credit went elsewhere. What the Red Ball Express actually reveals, and this is what historians are finally starting to say out loud, is that modern warfare isn't won by the side with the most courage. It's won by the side that can move the most stuff, fastest, most reliably. The Germans had courage. They didn't have logistics. By contrast, American industry and the American willingness to throw resources at a problem meant that when something broke, you replaced it. When a road became impassable, you built another one. When drivers collapsed from exhaustion, you rotated in fresh ones. It wasn't elegant. It was brutally, wastefully effective. The Germans, stretched thin, couldn't match that. Their supply lines were fragile. Their production was bottlenecked. By 1944, they were already losing the logistics war, and they knew it. Some of their officers openly discussed how they couldn't sustain a two-front war. The math was impossible. The trucks would decide it before the tanks ever did. The Red Ball Express ran from August through November 1944. Then the supply situation stabilized. The Allies captured more ports. The infrastructure caught up to the demand. The improvised network became obsolete, but in those crucial 4 months, it kept an army alive and moving. It kept momentum going when momentum was everything. I've spent years reading after-action reports, talking to veterans, digging through archives, and what strikes me most is this: nobody planned for the Red Ball to work. It worked because the men driving those trucks decided it would. They improvised, they adapted. They didn't have the luxury of waiting for perfect conditions or higher orders. That's the real lesson. Wars aren't won by the side with the best plans. They're won by the side that can adapt when the plans fall apart, by the side willing to throw resources at problems and trust the people on the ground to solve them. The Red Ball Express was messy, exhausting, and unglamorous. It was also essential. So when you read about D-Day or the breakout from Normandy, remember, those soldiers didn't win with bravery alone. They won because 5,000 trucks, driven by men whose names we don't remember, kept moving day and night. That's the victory that doesn't make the history books. That's the victory that actually mattered. Subscribe. Every week, we uncover the overlooked stories that actually won the war.